Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Trinity stamps. Today we are going to be using the Merry Christmas foiled sentiment, the, foiled flakes, the Snowflakes trio die, the Merry and the Christmas Simply Sentimental, and then this one I'll use on the inside of my cards, but I just wanted to show it to you in case you are you are making your own Christmas cards. These are so brilliant. It's inside sentiments for Christmas and it's got all kinds of different fonts and I just love it. So we are jumping right into the first card, which is hot foil. You may have noticed from the title of the video today, the premise of today's video is hot foil, deco foil, and heat embossing. We're going to make 3 cards that will have a metallic foil look, but they're not necessarily all foil. So this first one is I'm using the Spellbinders Glimmer Machine with Glimmer hot foil, which is different than deco foil. And I am using these beautiful foiled flakes. These are so pretty. I use the Prism foil with them, and I'm using all the same navy colored cardstock. Then I am using this sentiment with it. Did you know that you could foil on top of foil? I don't know if you knew that. I saw that in a video. Yana taught that to me, and I think it's brilliant. So that's what I'm trying here. I'm trying the foiling on top of the other foiling, which did work. You'll see that here in a moment, and I'm doing that in a champagne color. However, I don't think that I chose colors that were contrasting enough, and so it was really hard to see my beautiful script sentiment, which really is kind of like the star of the show of this particular card. And so because it was a little bit difficult to read, I did decide to go back, and in this, it's a foil and die. So you foil the sentiment, but then it also comes with a companion die in the same set. And so I opted to do it this way. The foil I used this time around is called Sky Bright. It's a really pretty, light blue, like a Tiffany blue, tealish color. And so then I went ahead after I was done with this, and then I cut out the sentiment with coordinating die, and then that card is that's all the elements for that card. So one of the reasons that got me thinking about this was because my friend Susan had recently sent me a text message and said that she was struggling with hot foiling. And I'm just going to be very honest. So do I. I struggle with hot foiling. I watch other people do it. I think it's brilliant. I love the results. I don't love photographing them. We'll come back to that. Something to note, you see me there putting my tape on for my die, and it's just barely on the edges. Do not put your tape over your foiled parts. You can pull up the foil, and you don't want to do that. So make sure that you're just putting it on the edge of it. So now we're going to move on to the deco foil. What is deco foil? This is the foil that you will use with a laminator. And this is, you have to have a toner, like it has to have toner to stick to, or something else. So do I have toner sheets? Yes, I do. Can you purchase toner sheets? Absolutely. But I wanted to show you a different way to do it that didn't require any specialty products outside of just the foil. So what you see me doing here is I'm taking Versamark ink. It's just a clear, sticky embossing ink. And I like to swipe it all over my cardstock, and then I use my pouncer to go over it to make sure everything's really good and covered. And then what I'm putting on here is clear embossing powder. And I'm just covering the whole sheet with it. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I'm working with those Snowflake trio dies. If you were working with stamps, you could just stamp it and emboss it. You'll see that here when we do the sentiment. But then I'm going to go ahead and heat set this whole thing. So this whole sheet of cardstock, this is just Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock. This whole thing is just going to be clear embossing powder, completely covered. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to do it a second time. The reason I'm going to do it a second time is because I want to have the smoothest result that I can have. Because we all know how it goes with embossing powder. Like sometimes it sticks great, sometimes it doesn't. But the more layers you have, the smoother it's going to be. And by the time we're done with this, I did 2 layers. It really does look like mirrored cardstock. But you need the embossing powder for the foil to stick to. So don't just use mirrored cardstock. It won't work. You have to emboss it. Can you use a color? Probably. I don't know. I just use clear because I think that, then it doesn't, interact with the foil at all. I've never seen anybody use anything other than clear, quite honestly. So I am going to go ahead and heat set this. Now when I'm doing this, I usually heat set one side, and then once that side is set, I flip it around and do the other side. Something to note, when you're doing multiple layers, you do have to be careful because it does take longer to cool. So now that we've created this mirrored cardstock, I'm going to go in, I'm going to take these beautiful snowflakes, and I'm going to cut them out of my cardstock. Again, this is because I am working with dies. If you were stamping your snowflakes, you would just clear heat emboss them and then move on to the laminator step. I really, really love these. I did run them through twice. But I had no issue cutting out through the embossing, and then here, because they are a bit intricate, I just would pop one out, and then I think I popped like a whole side out, like 1, 2, 3 of the little branches, and then I was able to pull the whole die out and had no issues. So here I'm lining these up on an extra piece of cardstock. I'm putting it into my carrier sheet, and then the Deco Foil that I am using is the... Hold on, I'll find it. Is it opal? I think it's opal. It is opal. And so I'm just going to trim down this sheet of foil, and I'm going to lay this right over top. It's only going to stick to the embossed parts. It's not going to stick to our background, piece of cardstock or anything like that. I've already preheated my laminator. This is not a fancy laminator. It's just one I got off of Amazon. And then I am going to feed it into my laminator with the fold in first. This one doesn't have slow, medium, or high. This is just hot or cold because it's a cheap laminator, but it works. And this is really all I use it for anyway. If I was a more organized person, maybe I would use it to like organize my craft items, but I'm not, so I don't. So anyway, once those are done, I'm just going to go ahead and then peel off my snowflakes. I chose a color because we're doing snowflakes that I wanted it to be like iridescent or opalescent. So it is kind of hard to see on camera. But you can see here with the sheet just how cleanly they adhered to my die cuts. And now I have foiled die cuts that I can use to create my card with. We're going to do the same thing for the sentiment just because I wanted to show you that it does indeed work with stamps. So here I am going, this is again, same navy cardstock. This is Nautical from Hero Arts. But I chose the really kind of, I don't know. I think it's a beautiful script font. It says Merry Christmas. So I'm going to stamp this down after I've treated it with my anti-static tool. And I'm going to stamp it twice just because, just like when we did, previously where we did 2 coats of it to make sure it would stick really well, I want to make sure that it's going to stick really well to my sentiment, especially since this is a thinner font. I'm going to clear heat emboss it. Just make sure you double check that if there's any stray areas, because any areas that you heat emboss will, the foil will stick to using this version. So I've heat set that, and then again, second piece of cardstock, my heat embossed cardstock. This time I'm using some teal. This is actually a fancy foil from Gina K, but it's the same type of foil as Deco Foil. It's ThermoWeb. It's just a different brand, but you know what I'm saying. And then I'm going to run that through, and then you'll be able to see here that it, again, even though we stamped instead of just, covering the whole sheet, that it sticks really nicely. Same rules apply for the taping. You don't want to get the tape on your foiling when you're running it through your die cut machine. It will remove it. So now, this is the last one. You guys know, like, if you watch my channel, like, I'm a big fan of everybody kind of getting the look that they want no matter what their circumstances are. And these are 3 really, really good options because not everybody loves hot foil. Not everybody, has a laminator. Not everybody wants to heat emboss. But here you can get, these cards look like a set, guys, and we made them 3 different ways. So for this last one, which is the heat embossing, I've die cut my snowflakes out of this Nautical cardstock, and I'm doing the same thing as far as covering them in the Versamark. The only difference is now, instead of using foil to, do like the clear heat embossing, I'm using an iridescent embossing powder. This is iridescent blue, and I'm just dipping it. This one's small enough for me to just dip it in there. And then I'm going to heat set that. And the reason I chose to cut them out of a darker colored cardstock is because this particular type of embossing powder does show up better on darker colored cardstock. And so it's going to completely change the color into this really beautiful iridescent metallic kind of foil look with no foil. It's just heat embossing. But because it's an iridescent embossing powder, it's really, really great. And again, you can do this as many times as you need to get good coverage. So some of the areas I didn't really get great coverage. I just went back over it with more Versamark. You can actually also, if you're fast enough, just dip it back in while the heat embossing is still hot. But I almost never am fast enough. So I just add more embossing powder or Versamark and then add more embossing powder, and it's fine. So here you can see how we've completely changed the color. One looks metallic, one doesn't. I just wanted to show you for the bigger ones, what I end up doing is I cover as much of the die cut as I can with my ink pad, but I have to leave myself a handle. It's just the situation. But don't worry, once the embossing powder gets melted, even though you've done them in 2 separate steps, they will just kind of like meld together and you won't be able to tell that you did one and then the other. So no big deal. I like the way all 3 of these cards came out, but I'm going to be very honest with you, even though it might not be the fanciest one, this one that we make with these heat embossed snowflakes is my favorite. It's my favorite. I think it's because it's all blue, and blue is my boyfriend. Like, I love a blue. I mean, well, they're all blue. I mean, the hot foil one is pretty good too, because I love that script. That Merry Christmas script is just stunning. Anywho, so here I just wanted to show you, in the Simply Sentimental sets that Trinity Stamps has, there's always different fonts, which I really love because they give different vibes. And so this one is more of a traditional font, and it might be a little bit overwhelming because it cuts out each of the individual letters. However, because the outline, the shadow is so well done, it was really quick and easy to just fit those pieces back in there. And then I always use a cup to just help me keep track of everything, because I will lose a die cut. I'll lose a die. I'll lose my scissors, my tweezers, whatever. My glue gun. You see how big this thing is? This glue press. I'll lose that sometimes because I'm a crafter and it happens to the best of us. So here I'm going to go through. I'm going to skip the majority of the gluing because it does take a little bit of time to get glue on each one of the snowflakes since I have to dot it around. But these have all been glued down to, again, the same navy cardstock. Once those are glued down, I'm going to go in. I'm going to trim off the excess. And then I chose to pop up all of my sentiments on foam tape, but you wouldn't have to if you weren't, you could even just like cut out a bunch of the die cuts and stack them up. I was done die cutting. It was a day. So we're not going to get into like the whole big thing. This is a super late video for me. Normally I don't post videos this late at all. And in fact, if it gets this late, normally I'll just skip it and post it the next day. But I did not want to go back on my word, and I have an obligation to fill. Today, Peanut had a concert at school, and right as the concert starts at 2:15, at 10 after 2, no joke, a filling falls out of my tooth. It just fell out. It didn't break. The whole thing came out. And thankfully there wasn't any pain or anything. But so that kind of backed me up in my day, as well as just some other things that happened. Like he came home from school early the one day sick, and then he was off the next day. And so the week just kind of has been what it's been. But it's okay. Here we are, and we're making it through with the help of honestly my family and my husband. My wonderful husband's been literally solo parenting all night so that I could finish doing what I needed to do. So the other color that I did just want to mention here, this lighter like tealish blue color, is Arctic. And I thought that it complemented the foils really nicely. And so that's why I chose to use those. Here, again, I skipped the gluing because it's just, I think it's kind of boring just watching me dot the glue all around, but I am thoroughly dotting the glue. Here I'm going in and laying out my sentiment just so I can be sure about where I need to put the other snowflakes. And this is just gonna, I just used the 3, you know, just the little trio, and maybe I like that one because it's more clean and simple. I don't know. I don't know. I like it. This one's my favorite. I mean, not that the other 2 aren't beautiful. I think that they are, but this one's my guy right here. So here, again, just gluing all of those down and then popping up the sentiment on that foam tape. This one is a little bit larger, so I did put down the Christmas first so that I could get that centered, and then I added the Mary because I didn't want to put the Mary down first and then find that I couldn't fit my Christmas where it needed to go for it to make sense. So if you guys watched my previous video from last month, you know how much I'm totally in love with these reflecting rhinestones because they change color and they're fantastic. They're so good. The delight that I feel using them has not waned whatsoever. Like, I like them so much. So this is the blue version and the white version, and they totally change color and they're fantastic. So on this card, I used just the blue. I'm just going in and putting them down. On the next card, I used, have you never seen their little tray here thing? This thing's fantastic for getting the little rhinestones back in the bag without dumping them all over. Really very wonderful. But anyway, so then I can just dump my next round in, and these are like the white versions. Everything will be linked below. But so I used only the white version on this card, which actually, when the light catches it, ends up being a variety of like pinks, purples, and oranges. And then for the last card, which has like this kind of spray, this S pattern of snowflakes, I used a combination of both of them, and no regrets. I love that. I love these rhinestones. They're so pretty. And then, like, after that, we're just going to take a quick look at, you know, how they all came together. Again, this is the hot foil one. This is the Deco Foil or Thermoweb foil. And then this last one is the iridescent heat embossing. So you can get a very similar look 3 different ways. Use whatever works for you. I hope this inspires you to make some Christmas or some winter projects. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.